Well, good afternoon, everybody. I thought, after some pondering on it, that I ought to show you one of my screw-ups. Don't want you guys to think I'm perfect. Nobody likes to admit to these kind of things, so somebody's got to say it out loud once in a while. So, got this block of aluminum we've been carving on for 2 days, right? Like profile and drilling and tapping holes and all kinds of horsing around. And anyways, in order to machine this part, I have to flip it multiple times, get recentered on it. Well, anyways, when I flipped it to do this side, the last side, of course, I touched off on these edges, which meant that I had to do the math on finding the center line, because if this old digital readout has a halving function, I don't know what it is. So I got to touch each edge, basically measure the part using an edge finder and then divide the number in half. I straight up made a math error, and I didn't realize I had done it. I would say this is, moral of the story is, run your math equations twice. But at any rate, made an error in my math, and the results of that was these 4 holes and that one were off-center by 50 thousandths. And I didn't know I did it until I went to try test fitting. So what's going in there is a roller and the pin. I've got the pin roughed out. And when I went to put this pin in there, slid it through the hole, and of course it crashed on the other side and didn't slip into the opposing hole. So, oh my goodness. So anyway, the reason I'm showing you this is just to see how a guy deals with problems like this. So what I ended up doing is I bored that and reamed it, or I drilled and reamed that to 7/8 of an inch, and then machined about a 1.5 press fit pin that I drove in there. I did it right on the boring mill. I put one of my setup jacks in here so that I didn't have to risk springing this, and then drove it in there with a 2-pounder. Milled it off flat, and then, I should say, so first I got centered up on this properly, of course, and then I did the same basic thing here. I punched that through with an end mill to start with so that I didn't have to worry about my a drill wandering. Then I came down to these half 13 holes, did the same thing, went on the correct centers, drilled them with a end mill. I actually found a resharpened end mill that was, believe it or not, the right size to be the tap drill for a 5/8 11 tap. And so got on the correct center, bored them out with that end mill, and then tapped them 5/8 11. And then what I did is went down to the hardware store and bought myself some carriage bolts, 5/8 11 carriage bolts. Now I did look on McMaster-Carr. They do make some solid thread inserts, but I didn't like them because for some stupid reason they're only 5/8 of an inch long, and I wanted more threads in there than that. So I went and got some 5/8 carriage bolts, and the reason I went with that is because those are generally a grade 2, and I didn't want something crazy hard. So anyway, loaded them things with Loctite, cleaned it all up with brake parts cleaner, loaded them with Loctite, and reefed them all in here last night, and then left it sit overnight. Bottomed them right out in the threads. These are blind holes. Came in this morning, porta-banded them off, and then you can see I just got done with the second set. End milled them off flush with a face, and then I'm drilling and tapping those for my half 13 size. So it's some screwing around, but the crazy part is when I get all done, it's actually going to be stronger and better than it was, because loosening and tightening bolts in a block of aluminum eventually wears the threads out. I don't know how much this thing will get loosened and tightened. I called the customer, told them what it was I'd done. They were perfectly fine with my fix here. And I told them, I said, well, if you guys have trouble wearing the threads out on the other side, let me know, and we'll go ahead and tap and sleeve that side too. But at any rate, I just wanted to show you guys, this is the kind of stuff that happens in the real world. Sooner or later, everybody makes a mistake. Unfortunately, I make more of them than I ought to, and this was a dumb one. But at the end of the day, all's well that ends well is the old saying. So we're going to go ahead and finish drilling and tapping those two, and then this part is finally actually done, and we can move on to the next component. Catch you guys on the next one.